You're the one who's lost contact with life. You've let yourself be conditioned by machines.
Oh shit, we're live.
Oh, fuck. Hi, I'm Valanda, or you can call me Volly, or my mate. Any of the above. I'll take it.
And I'm Drew Tillman. Today we're going to talk about episode 9 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Almost fucked up again.
You almost fucked up. You almost.
Oh, Valanda.
Yeah.
What are your initial impressions of this episode?
I think I might hate Sabrina. I think I legitimately might hate her. Yeah. It's the first time I've watched this episode, and I watched it with a buddy of mine who'd never seen any of Sabrina before, and they were also like, yeah, I can't wait for her to fall and burn. Yeah, so that was my impression of the episode. What about you, Drew?
My impression of the episode was, on the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, all this stuff's going wrong. And the second time I watched it, I think, Sabrina, you're not the hero of this story. Why are we following you around?
Yeah.
Like, it's called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but they have been neither chilling nor really about Sabrina, unless you count Sabrina as there's not really an archetype for it, but like some sort of bumbling fool who makes things worse. And the universe just happens to let them out of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like, Sabrina is something. She causes her own problems in this... Correction. She causes her own problems, which come to a head in this episode.
Yep.
And it was about halfway through the episode I realised I think I was rooting for her to fail. And yeah, that's never a good sign. Because she's not meant to be the anti-hero. She's not meant to be that person. She's supposed to be she started out the series a strong-ish female character. Stands up for things, social justice warrior, doesn't put up with shit from anyone. And by the end of it, I'm like, oh, she's tripping on her 16-year-old have access to power bullshit. Oh.
Yeah. It's a mess.
Yeah.
So shall we just dive right in?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay. So, this episode opens with knocking in the same way that episode 8 ended with knocking.
It did not end in the same way.
No, well, let me say, there was knocking on both the end of the last one and knocking at the beginning of this one. It was not the same knocking at all.
No. Look, we ended the last episode with a real serious, like, dum, dum, dum. And this was sort of like...
Yes. And Harvey opens the door, and it's, Sabrina's there, because she wants to know about Tommy, because, she found out Tommy came back.
Yeah.
In the last episode, so... Harvey's like, he's fine. It's no big deal, Sabrina. He's just in shock. So, it's not like he's being weird or anything.
He's not talking or making any responses or eating. And at that perfect time, the music goes, dum. It's like, here's a drop. Dum. Things get serious. I'm like, I would have major respect if they literally just gave him PTSD. Like, they just okay, let's do this. This shit is real.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, my hopes were not founded.
So we get Tommy's fine, but he's not eating. He's not talking. He's perfectly fine, though. He's just in shock. And then it immediately cuts from this scene to Ambrose in the kitchen talking to Aunt Hilda.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do I look? And he's got some, blazer on over a graphic tee.
Of course. Hipster.
I do like Aunt Hilda's response, though, because he's like, is it too much? And she's like, no, you never get a second chance at a first impression. And it's like, Aunt Hilda. You're always so full of advice and everything. I love you so much.
I love Aunt Hilda. My love for her and Ambrose will never change.
Right? They're literally the two best characters in this entire show.
Yeah.
Ambrose may have tried to blow up the Vatican, but he's not out here raising the dead and pretending like it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. we have this nice little scene, and they're talking about the fact that he has the job at the Unseen Academy, Dark Arts, whatever it is. Yeah, so they're talking about the fact that she has that job, and they basically just end. It's another one of those. Oh, is this where it ends with the phone call?
No, this one is the one where it ends with Hilda asks him to set the table, and he's like, "Oh, Sabrina went to Tommy or Harvey's, and Zelda's been gone for like forever." And then it just cuts to Aunt Zelda putting her like straightening her blazer. Because Aunt Zelda and Lord Blackwood have just been hooking up.
They have been,
and they've been.
Yes, it very much appears like they've just been fucking. But they may have been using that weird cat o' nine tails thing, because he is cleaning something, which is for gross.
He's cleaning a riding crop. So they definitely got into some kink, which is like, okay. But then, honestly, the worst scene in this entire show,
yeah,
hands down, in my opinion, is Blackwood asks Zelda to be the unholy godmother of his new children, and she's like, "Oh, that's great." And then he's like, "Oh, also, Lady Blackwood is weak and can't handle her duties, so would you take over all of her duties?" Basically, literally trying to replace his wife with Zelda, and that is, hands down, creepiest, grossest thing in this entire show.
Like, so this scene, like, they're talking, they're basically talking about polyamory and monogamy, and he's like, witches should all be polyamorous like it used to be in the good old days. And Aunt Z's like, nah, like exploring ecstasy and agony with one person is the best thing ever. And he's like, yeah, no. Do you want to replace my wife?
Yeah, you want to just replace my wife? You know, I definitely won't kill her and throw her to the dogs or anything.
Nah,
don't worry about
it, because having my twin sons be born is the most important thing in the world to me. Super fucking weird. And I laughed so hard when he said unholy godmother or whatever it was. I was like, please stop adding. They really hammer home this. It's ungodly. It's in this episode as well, and I'll point it out when it comes up. I was like, they keep adding like unholy or infernal in front of something just to make it like, oh, it's clearly a witching world. I was like, no, treat it like a normal thing. Like, you don't want them to be her unholy mother. No. She gives it a much nicer name. She says night mother. I'm like, that's the phrase they should have used.
Yes. The thing is about this is they center the witches so much on like standard Puritan Christianity that it goes from being its own thing to basically being teenagers trying to invert like something. Like, it's the kind of thing that teenagers do where they're like, oh yeah, I'm a Satanist because look at this thing. And it's like, oh, fuck off.
Because I'm unholy. Like, it's like they've taken every puritanical idea about Satanism and gone, oh yes, it's an unholy godmother. They have an unholy court. They have an infernal or something. I'm like, no, please don't do that. You don't need to do that. Set up a law that it's its own and be interesting. But they don't. Yeah. So
so then it cuts from this scene to Sabrina talking to Ambrose, and she's bragging that it worked. Tommy's back. I beat all the balancing of the universe and blah, 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 blah. And Ambrose is talking to her, and he is basically like asking her questions. And then it comes out that Tommy's not eating. And Ambrose is like, you're saying he's not eating, are you? That's real bad, Sabrina. We need to tell our aunts.
Yeah. And she's like, no. I'll fix it. I've got it. I'm like, no, you don't. You're a 16-year-old. Like, you don't have to. Just admit you're out of your depth. Like, just say now and things. But no, she's a 16-year-old who thinks she knows she can do everything.
And I think the worst part about this scene is Ambrose is very correctly like, they will find out this is a small town, Sabrina, and when they do, it's going to be a problem. And her response is, no, Tommy's just in shock. There's definitely not anything that could have possibly gone wrong with my dumb harebrained scheme. So it's fine. And by the time they figure it out, Tommy's going to be perfectly fine. Agatha will be fine, and nobody can do anything anyway.
Yeah.
Not a good sentence to say when earlier in this season, your aunt said it's so tragic when teenagers fall into comas, so they could just knock Tommy into a coma. Also, you straight up had a whole festival about killing and eating one of you. So, again, witches are not opposed to murder.
Yeah, they're not against this in principle. Like, they will more than happily just murder the boy and be done with it.
Right? Just be like, oh, okay, so you brought them both back? Well, I'm gonna go stab Tommy in the face, because
yeah,
fuck you.
It's, I think it's really is that teenage thing. I'm hoping, and again, like, I had such high hopes when this series started where I thought, like, yeah, we should probably watch this. This could be interesting. Now, don't get me wrong. This has been interesting and very fun to rip it apart, because I came from a place of, like, I think this is going to be good. And now at a place of, like, this is not good. But she used to be a very strong character in my opinion. And, like, watching it more now, I was like, she's definitely hit that teenage thing of abuse of power. Like, she has power, she's abusing it like she can because she thinks she's invincible, just like any 16-year-old kid would. And I'm hoping that series 2 is not about that. I hope it's about her realizing there is an order to the world, but she can make small changes and those will be good ones. Just balance, let dead things stay dead.
Yeah, I have a lot of hopes for season 2, but we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, at some point.
I would like season 2 to feel less like every episode is some sort of setup / explanation episode, and more like season 2 is a story. And just, like, let me get into what's happening and, like, really just dive in and swim around, and not just every episode being like, let me tell you a little bit more about how witches work, because I don't care. They're not interesting.
They haven't built up enough lore, a unique lore, let's put it like that. They haven't set up enough unique lore around to this that we couldn't have got, basically, that my friend I was watching it with today didn't pick up from this singular episode. It's like, the audience aren't dumb, and they very much go, oh, this big thing just happened. Let me have an unnecessary aside where I tell you all the things that are happening. And I think you know where I'm on about in this episode. It's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So bad.
Mm-hmm. So moving on from this scene where Sabrina continues to say, I'm 16 and I know better than everyone else, despite centuries and centuries and centuries of lore and study and focus. Because it's not like the witches in this show are, you know, unorganized. Like, they have organizations. They have people who clearly have tried to do stuff.
It's literally called the Church of the Night. Like, they are not small things.
Witch scientists. I'm sure there's some of them out there. Anyway, so we jump from that to the weird sisters praying at the Church of Night. Or not Church of Night. At, the Unseen Academy, because fuck it, that's what
funny.
it is.
So good, like...
And there
are these...
They say their
like
stupid prayer.
Doing, like, the literal one, like, change every other word in the Lord's Prayer, and that's basically what these girls are doing, and it was so funny.
Oh yeah, that's 100%. And it's just like, okay, we get it. You guys don't worry. All right. That's cool, guys. Please stop.
I'm hoping it's like a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, I mean, I don't, because I know it's based on like comic books and stuff, but I'm hoping it's a tongue-in-cheek thing of like, yeah, it's magic. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's like, that's the important bit. The important bit is about this over here, but I didn't care about that either.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna say I love things with magic in them. It's one of my favorite types of genre.
It's why we do D&D.
Yeah. Harry Potter has a more interesting lore than Sabrina the Teenage than Sabrina's lore. Come on, guys! Like,
Chilling adventures.
Harry Potter's literally written. The first book is written for like 10-year-olds and doesn't treat them as dumb as this show treats its audience, which I'm sure the demographic is at least 16-year-olds.
Yeah, it's gotta be like the protagonist is like 16 and all of the other like main characters. No, that's not true. Like, the protagonist is like 16 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty much how Buffy was aimed at that kind of like age group. And as we matured watching it, so did she. And hence Angel and all this good shit spinning off. Like, it got darker as the series went on because we grew older and realised that the world is a darker place. So hopes for season 2.
Exactly. So yeah, they say the inverted Lord's Prayer, and then Agatha vomits up dirt on her bed and is very sick, and the other two sisters are like, "Oh no!"
I thought it was seriously chunky blood. Like, I couldn't tell that was
It
dirt.
really looked like chunky blood, and I thought that too, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Oh,
And
yeah.
then it jumps to the next scene where Sabrina comes into his room and finds Nick there, and she's like, "Oh, how did you get in my room?" He's astral projecting everybody. It's solved instantly.
Because those creepy birds turn up.
Those creepy birds. And he tells her what happened, and she's like, "It's not my fault."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You killed her to bring back Tommy and then brought her back."
Yeah.
There's a whole, we've been talking about a balancing of scales for like, you had to know it's been like 2 days. We didn't subtly hint at it. We straight up said you have to kill somebody to bring someone back. It's like a 1 in, 1 out situation.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I didn't do it. It's not me.
Yeah, it's like, I found a loophole, yo. I do have to say, like, whoever designed her throwing up the mud, good job, because I so totally thought that was chunky blood. It was super gross, and it was like really viscous, I guess. And she nailed it. It was beautiful and super gross. I have to call out the real good points in this episode, and that was it.
Then Nick asks about Tommy, like, "Oh, how's Tommy?" And Sabrina's like, "He's perfectly fine. He's laughing and playing." And I mean, that's not exactly what she says, but
Yes, and I think someone during this episode says she's a terrible liar. Yeah.
it's Nick in the scene. Yeah, he's like, "You're a really bad liar."
Yeah.
You know that?
So I couldn't remember when it comes out. It must be this one. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, she's a really terrible liar. She's not good at it. And she should really just stop.
Yeah.
Stop trying.
Just don't. No, just nope. So, she goes about her next day, I think, right?
Yeah, actually, no, it jumps to Harvey walking around his dark-ass house.
Oh, yeah.
No one in this town apparently can afford more than 1 light bulb per room.
All right. So here's a true story from when we were sitting on the couch watching this. Slightly different part of the transatlantic couch. We had to go in and turn up the brightness because we couldn't see anything. Because, like, all these shots are so dark. I mean, as you said, like, they're lit by like 1 10-watt bulb or something, like 1 candle. Like, it is super dark. Just all over. Even when he turns the lights on, it's still like super dark. Anyway, so super dark house. Standing in front of my favorite horror like thing, the mirror.
The mirror. Yeah, Tommy's in front of the mirror and he's scratching at it. I guess that's what happens, everyone, when you come back as a zombie. You find your reflection really interesting. Like a bird would.
Or a really confused cat.
Anyway, so Harvey is like, "Tommy, come over here." And he sits him on the couch. And he shows him a photo album. And Tommy reacts to nothing until he sees another picture of himself. And he starts scratching at it again.
Yeah,
That's the end of that
like I think this scene does a beautiful job of setting up that this kid is not right. Like, if the piano drop before didn't do the job, this scene certainly did.
Yeah, because honestly, we hadn't seen him before this thing, and it's just like, "Oh, Tommy's being weird." And it's like, okay, weird how? But like props to this guy. He does a great job of playing something like a husk of a human being. He does a really good job of that. But it's a good scene for that. But it just moves on from here. Like,
yeah,
they could have done more.
I feel like, sorry, I've shifted my sleeping pattern a little bit, and I'm super tired. I'm so sorry. So like, I think the Kinkle boys, Crinkle boys, huh? Crinkle.
No R.
I'm so tired. I'm in Iceland at the moment, and they roll all the arse. I'm adding it everywhere by accident, and I'm super out of this right now. So the Kinkle boys are, I think, incredible actors. Like, Tommy does, whoever playing Tommy does a great job from being this very supportive older brother, and they have genuine like connection moments, like, oh, that's like two brothers getting on, or like that's one protecting the other. No, this is one brother looking up to the other. And in this scene, whoever is playing Tommy nails being that scary husk guy that you were talking about, just like, oh, he's super creepy. This is super not good. And the kid who plays Harvey, my God, that kid can act. I do add a caveat on the end of this one, though, and I'll bring it up when we hit it.
Uh-oh. Okay. So, yeah, after this whole scene with the photo album, we cut to Susie's house, where she is talking quietly with Dorothea, and she's like, I can't do that. My dad would be mad. And then Dorothea's like, okay, we'll just do it anyway. And her dad, in the first time I've ever seen this in a TV show, knocks before walking into his child's bedroom. He knocks and asks if he can come in. And she's like, yeah, come in, it's fine. And there's no one there. But he clearly heard her talking to somebody.
Yeah, but he doesn't question it too much, I guess.
No.
He's just letting it go through. Like, it's like, oh, she's doing something, going through something. I'm gonna stand back a little bit and see what this turns into.
Exactly, but I mean, honestly, she could have covered and be like, oh, I've thought about trying out for the school play and I was practicing lines. It's the easiest lie in the world. Other than, who are you talking to? No one.
No one, Dad, I swear.
Be like, well, either you're talking to yourself or there's someone in here.
And again, this is another one of those super short scenes.
Yep.
Like, done.
Because it goes from there to Hilda answering the phone at the mortuary in the morning.
Yeah.
And they found most of the miners' bodies. And they're going to bring them by the mortuary to have to get them ready to be buried.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of back and forth here about who's going to receive the bodies and what's this and what's that. I mean, it kind of comes down to Ambrose is going to receive the bodies and start prepping them. Hilda's going to be at Dr. Cerberus's. And Zelda's like, yes, while you go and work at that insipid bookstore, we will be making the Spellman name worth something again.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
I was like,
my God.
Oh, she's high on getting laid, isn't she?
Definitely. Also, I think this is the scene where I noticed that her newspapers are always different languages. Because I think she's reading one with some sort of... I mean, I don't know the language, but it's somewhere from Asia. That's all I know.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know. It was super obvious in this one. I was like, oh, she really is reading different newspapers from all over the world. She cultured, yo.
She wants to know what's happening all over the world.
Which leads me to believe she has a very deep and mysterious past. I want to know how she knows all these languages. Unless she's casting the equivalent of comprehend language, in which case I'm a little sad.
That's possible, but I think she probably just knows the languages because her aunts have been around a long time. Like, they're old. Yeah. Like, they, Hilda talks about being drunk during Elizabeth's coronation.
Yeah, I think so. No,
or was it
Victoria?
Victoria?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then later in this episode, if that wasn't a good enough thing, we had another one. But yeah, she's reading them from all over the world. I personally think she just reads the obituaries in all of them.
Like, who am I going to bury today?
It's just some weird, morbid thing of just like...
Yeah. So they get this news that they're going to receive all the miners' bodies so they can get them ready to give the families some closure, which is like... They're still kind of part of the mortal world, and they are concerned about them because of, say, mining community. I think we discussed this last time, like how important it is. And they're like, yeah, so that we can give closure. And they have like this really nice little side eye between Sabrina and Ambrose of like, you're gonna get busted. You're boned. And she just gives that look back off like, I'll figure something. When are they coming?
Oh god. So after that, we jump to Sabrina's school, where she tries to sneak the Book of the Dead back into Wardwell's office. And obviously Wardwell catches her.
Of course.
And is like, oh, did you feel the ill wind last night?
He did.
And there's so many hints of, Sabrina, I know what you did. You want to talk about it? You want to tell me how you did it? You want to be like corrupt and evil? Cool. Oh, anyway, I see you have the Book of the Dead there. You could have just asked for that.
Yeah, rather than stealing it.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I didn't steal it. I grabbed the wrong book.
Yeah.
Lies. So many bad lies.
Yeah, another example of a terrible lie. And Wardwell's just like, all right, okay, cool. All right, we're going to let it be.
Yep.
Part of the Dark Lord's plan.
Also another weird short scene because then Sabrina runs out and Roz runs up to her and she's like, Sabrina, is Tommy back? And Sabrina's like, yes. It's great, isn't it? And Roz is like, no, it is not.
This is not cool. I had a vision dream thing last night in which Tommy's body was in the mist and being eaten by some wild dogs.
Yep. And Sabrina's like, oh my God. Drags her around the corner to another just random spot in the hallway and is like, maybe if you come to meet Tommy, the possible murderous zombie, she doesn't say that part, that's subtext, you can understand what's happening. I, Sabrina, am a bad person because I'm going to continue to put my friends in harm's way just willy-nilly.
Yeah, this scene is where I had like my mate stop the thing and I was like, I need to rant for half a second. My rant was like, Sabrina is the worst friend in the world. She knows that Roz is going through this thing which is magic-like. She puts her in harm's way. She literally uses Roz's ability on something she knows that may be able to hurt her and still does not tell her that she is a witch. It still does not say, oh, you are literally having witch-like abilities or being able to see the future? I'm a witch, so the only person, apart from her grandmother, that could probably help Roz through this is Sabrina. But she won't do it. Instead, she will use her untrained friend's ability to go do this thing. I was like, Sabrina, you're a terrible friend.
But then, honestly, Sabrina has, like, watching it a second time and just, like, really watching it, Sabrina's been kind of a shitty friend from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the first time, it's like, oh, she's like a really good friend. She stands up for her friend. She stands up for what she believes in. And then it's, I want what I want and I have power, so give.
Yeah, there's a definite shift after, I think, like, episode 4. Yeah, after like episode 4, episode 5, I think, when she starts to shift from this, I'm all about my friends and about helping them out and standing up for people too. Everything is about me one way or another. Yeah, and it's like, oh no, Sabrina, is this her arc? Is she just going down the dark path and then we get to pick her back up at the other end? I hope she goes back up, because right now, I want Sabrina to fail in everything.
I agree. I want her to fail and feel bad.
Do you think if like the end of series 10 is still along this track, do you think they rushed series 2 out so that we would be like, oh, I haven't quite gotten over how much I dislike her. Let's see if season 2 will change their mind. The little cynical part of me is writing that people are still unsure and eventually they'll come down with no, so let's rush our season 2 and see what they think, because it's super quick.
Let's do it. The next scene, though, is literally my favorite scene for 2 reasons.
Okay.
So the next scene is Ambrose and Luke are talking to Blackwood, and Blackwood is like, it's so good to have you here, Ambrose. You've been denied too many rights as a warlock for too long, so I have a gift for you. And he picks up a little wooden box, and he's like, a goblin of the highest caliber. His name is Leviathan. And he opens it, and a little brown mouse.
That's amazing.
Little tiny brown mouse. And this is my first thing. 1, I want this mouse to come back in season 2 and do something really cool, because his name is fucking Leviathan and he's a tiny thing.
Yes.
So I want him to have some sort of crazy powers.
Yeah.
That's the first reason I really like this scene. The second reason is Blackwood's like, yes, I need your help because I want to reform the entire Church of Night from the ground up. All the rules and laws and pretty sure he just wants to like go back to the old ways, which were terrible. And Ambrose was like, yeah, that sounds fine. How can I help? And he's like, help Luke translate this 9-volume text. Anyway, I have to walk around the school pointlessly for a few hours, so spread out. It is the most obvious, hey, you can fucking hear line ever.
Yep. But Church of Night, no one gives a fuck. And he does not get a fuck because in the midst of things getting hot and passionate very quickly, he gets interrupted.
Yep, because the two healthy weird sisters and Nick come in and they're like, where's Blackwood? Because we kind of need to talk to him. Which, by the way, there was a cut here of some time passing, but it doesn't feel like a lot of time because all that Luke and Ambrose got done was like they unbuttoned their like shirts a little bit. So unless they were making out for 3 hours, they haven't gotten that far into it. Blackwood hasn't been gone that long. How'd they not run into him?
It's super like they just went, oh, here's them talking to Bamf, half their clothing is undone. Like, it didn't feel like a proper transition. It was like, boom, and suddenly it's like some time later, and I'm not really sure how or what we got to this point. It was really bad editing. I mean, I don't know if I prefer that over the random ass, let's add a 10-second pointless scene here. Like, or you could have written this slightly better, where they grab each other, hold each other on the desk, and then they get interrupted. Like, that would have made more sense.
Yeah, but I think they thought about that, and then they went, wait, Blackwood walked out of that room for like a second ago. They would have run into him. So they're like, no, we need some sort of time jump here. Anyway.
But I just...
So it doesn't make sense no matter how you cut it, Rolanda. Like, that's the unfortunate part, is it's just not, it's either not written or edited well, and that's kind of a problem, and we're not going to solve it.
You're beyond our help.
But the two weird sisters and Nick tell Ambrose the whole story of what happened and how Agatha is throwing up dirt and turnips and she's clearly sick. Which I like when you say that. Dorcas holds up a fucking turnip.
I've forgotten that. Yeah, I really liked... Well, the thing is, like, Ambrose already knew what they were doing. Everything wasn't a big revelation because he caught them doing it. True. But that turnip was just comic genius.
But he didn't know about her. He didn't know about Agatha's illness. And he, like an actual good person, goes, oh, fuck. And goes and gets... He's like, I know someone who can help us with this. Someone who actually knows about the cane pit. And it cuts to Aunt Hilda working in the coffee shop where Susie is, and it like pans across from Hilda to Susie looking at the bookshelves, and she sticks something under her shirt, and then guess who shows up? It's the jocks from the beginning to hassle poor Susie.
But Aunt Hilda, not having any of that shit. She just turns up and she's like, fuck off.
No.
And she, like, we have like this little bit of music which indicates magic has happened. Be warned. And she basically goes, oh, I'm so sorry about your past. Oh, also your friend? Oh, he's totally in lust with you. Now get out of my shop. It was so amazing.
Yeah, and she's very mean, but at the same time, like, still kind of supportive, because she's like, what happened to you was a terrible shame, and it's really sad that nobody listened to you, and you were 11, like you were just a child, but it doesn't give you an excuse to do what you're doing right now. So leave. I
feel like there's a moment where she could have just grabbed the camera and looked directly into it and into people's souls, completely fourth wall broken, and gone, yeah, you've been through shit. Don't be a dick.
Right? Like,
yeah, life lessons.
Seriously. Honestly, I hope that helps make these two jocks better later. Like, maybe that is a moment where they course correct. But it goes from there to Hilda's like, oh, you're Sabrina's friend, Susie. You have a book there? Do you want it? I can treat you to it. It's fine. And then Susie runs out and drops the book. And Hilda picks it up, and it's Virginia Woolf. And I have written... all the lines I really like, I wrote in quotes this time. It's like, oh, Ginny Wolfe. she could throw a dinner party.
Yes, because she immediately goes from being that that kind of like, I'm gonna berate you in a way that's gonna make you want to change rather than telling you have to, and she then just turns to this funny jovial woman again, and it's like, oh, that's amazing. It's super fun. I love Hilda. I love Hilda so much. Yeah.
It just turns back.
Yeah.
It turns right back to Hilda, which I do like. But the phone rings. She answers it, and she's like, "I'll be right there." So then it cuts back to the school, where Hilda is sitting next to Agatha, and she like checks her out, and she tells them like, "Oh, if you come back too soon, it's like a decompression sickness. She just has too much earth in her system, so." You balance her elements with fizzy water. That'll give you water and air. And some cayenne pepper for fire. Like 3 times a day for a week, she's fine. Don't worry about it.
They're like, fizzy water and cayenne pepper. And she's like, because you'll deliver it with love, won't you? And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, she's going to deliver it, but it won't be love.
Yep. And then she walks out of the room, and Ambrose runs up and catches her, and he's like, yo, what the fuck was that, Hilda? That's Alka-Seltzer. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that girl's fucking dead. She's like, Ambrose, she's gonna die. What the fuck happened?
Yeah. She's like, I'm just keeping them busy. And I was thinking like, wait a minute. What if she's been doing that with all of her recipes like this? What if the just have a bath thing is just her going, Sabrina, shut up. And that suddenly made the rest of the series so much more interesting.
Honestly, if here's the thing, if most magic can be solved by just not thinking about it, like, oh, the Weird Sisters put a blood curse on Sabrina, and if she doesn't think about it, it won't affect her. So her aunt's like, yeah, just take a bath in some salt water. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then Sabrina thinks she's doing something and thinks she fixes it. So then the curse can't take a hold of her anymore. And most of it is just busy work.
She's giving her the best placebos ever.
If that actually is a thing, it's amazing. I don't think it's that, though. I think it's just in this case because Ambrose immediately tells her everything, which again, smartest move to make.
Ambrose legit best. Just is. Like, he knows when he can subvert authority. He knows when he can do this and do that, and when he should do this and do that. He also knows, oh, you fucking with death. Let's not do this. He does.
I mean, it's literally the only thing. Like, this whole episode is, you need to go talk to the adults. Like, you need to go talk to the people who have been alive for way longer than you and know way more than you. Stop being an idiot. But we go back to the Kinkles place, and Sabrina and Roz show up, and Harvey's like, oh, look, Tommy won't do anything except for this. And he throws a football at his head.
That's it.
And Tommy catches it, and he's like, yeah, that's all he'll do, is react to stuff. So they go inside, and then Sabrina has an Aunt Hilda level of busy work, which is, do you have some soup?
Oh my god, yeah.
Maybe he would like some soup.
Oh, that's horrible. Again, she's doing I'm not going to tell him that his brother might be a zombie yet. I'm going to get him out of the room, though.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'll wait, because how could this backfire at all? So yeah, Harvey runs out of the room, and Roz grabs Tommy's hands, and she sees a vision of Tommy wandering in the mist, and then she hears Sabrina call her name, so she turns around, and there's this weird, ugly crone thing with a noose around its neck that says the exact same line as Sabrina.
Yeah, is that supposed to be Sabrina?
It's supposed to be Sabrina. At least Sabrina's witch's side?
Okay. Because at first I'm like, what the fuck is this creepy blonde lady? And it wasn't till later I went, oh, is that... I'm gonna have to ask.
Not her mortal side. Whatever. Rouse gets freaked out because...
You would.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then she, like, tells Sabrina, like, oh, I heard a crying baby and there's some fog. Anyway, I have to go. Bye!
Yeah, she's like, I'm GTFOing because I don't know what the fuck just happened, and you.
I hate this. Yes. She's like, I hate this. I'm gonna go home now.
At that point, I was like, maybe she should tell her, and then Sabrina can say, I'm a witch, please don't be scared. And at least that would have started the conversation. But no, she doesn't again.
Never. Because then we jump back to the mortuary where Sabrina's looking through Ambrose's books and she's like, aha, I figured it out. He has soul separation. She says it as if that's a thing that we should just all be aware of. It's not hard to figure out what it is, but it's also not really a thing. Whatever. And clearly Roz saw limbo. So all she has to do is go to limbo and get a soul. It's no big deal. It's the easiest thing in the world just to jaunt through the park and whatever.
Yeah. And she says this out loud.
Yeah. Because she turns around because she thinks she hears Ambrose come in the room.
Nope.
It's Aunt Hilda who's like, hey, Sabrina, why?
Why are you doing this? What are you doing? This is an exceptionally bad idea. There is balance in the world and you're messing with it. And going to limbo. Are you insane?
Yeah.
And yeah, this is like, this is a good scene because her aunt is telling her everything she should do and can do to solve the situation, which is we need to deal with the boy you brought back. Shoving his soul back in him by you going to limbo is the dumbest thing in the world.
She also says that there's two limbos, witch limbo and mortal limbo, and Sabrina as a witch, can't go to mortal limbo. And then Sabrina's like, haha, I'm half witch, I can go there. And she's like, it might kill your witch half. Like, you could end up worse off. Also, the universe is still demanding us, like, a balance. Like,
yeah.
Agatha's gonna die. Unless you put Tommy back where he came from.
The Reaper is playing with her because she's coughing up gravel. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, I love that image. It's so good. But yeah.
It's so good. And then Ambrose runs in and interrupts them with the classic
you gotta come see
movie
this.
and TV thing of, come look at this.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, I was looking at the bodies and they're covered in human bite marks. It's, you gotta come look at this thing. But we don't get to see what it is yet because we jump to the School of Magic where all the kids are singing and Hilda's like, yes. Or not Hilda, Zelda's like directing them. And then Agatha stumbles in and vomits up dirt and she's like, help me. And then Blackwood and Zelda find out about this fucking stupid scheme. And Blackwood's like, oh, I'm gonna go kill the mortal, and you two take her to the hospital, which is where she should have been weeks ago.
This was another one of those dumb drops. Infernal infirmary.
Yep.
Why?
Although, I think they mentioned the Infernal Infirmary before.
Possibly?
I may be confusing that with just, like, remembering this scene. But yes, they talk about the Infernal Infirmary.
Why? Not needed. It's just an infirmary, guys. It's just like, you don't need... No, please stop doing that. I have to talk about that scene when they're singing. Oh my god. So, I don't know how many of you are familiar with The Sound of Music, but there's a little song that goes along the lines of doe, a deer, a female deer, ray, a golden drop of sun. Now, the witches' choir in the Church of the Night are singing this song in perfect harmony. I'm like, say what again? What is this? Why is there no Black Sabbath going on? I'm very confused. It's just such a happy, cheerful song in an otherwise, like, flipped upside down world. Like, this... something not that. I mean, it was sung beautifully, don't get me wrong, they have solid voices, but my god.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense, considering they're like, unholy godmother, infernal infirmary.
Unrest in the court, yeah.
Like, just throwing words everywhere like fucking word soup. Oh no, my notes.
You've lost your notes?
No, the page refreshed, so I have to wait for it to refresh again and add the 30 pages of notes on here so I can scroll back to where I was. But I remember enough of what's happening. So, yeah, at this point, the Weird Sisters and Nick tell the two adults here what's going on, which feels fair. tell the adults in this case. Normally, in like young adult stuff, I'm all for not telling the adult stuff. The adults are usually stupid. Fuck the adults. In this case, the adults are smarter than the children. Please let them fix it.
Yes, like they've been around. You're at school for a reason. Please let them help. So yeah, and so Faustus is like, let's go kill the mortal. It's the quickest, easy solution.
Well, specifically, he says, I'm gonna go kill the mortal. And Zelda says, let me take care of it. It's my niece, her problems, like her failures are mine. Let me clean up this mess, please. And he's like, you have proven to me you can't do this. Like, you are just a fuck up like your niece. Which, that seems a little unfair.
Well, I don't know. From his point of view, I guess fair. Because Sabrina is being the typical 16-year-old rebel, but trying to be a good rebel because she thinks she is better, knows better. And yeah, Auntie really can't control her. So from his point of view, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, Sabrina is a fuck-up.
So then we jump back to... Because he's like, fine, do it. And then you jump back to the mortuary where Ambrose points out that the miners have had bites taken out of them. And that's probably why Tommy's not eating yet, because he's not hungry yet. And when he's hungry, he's definitely going to eat a person. Ooh, he's a zombie. So then we jump to the Kinkles' house where, of course, there's a zombie movie on TV.
Of course.
And
I'm pretty sure it's Night of the Living Dead.
I'm pretty sure you're right, but it's too on the nose, guys. Like, it's too on the nose to be, like, really funny. It's kind of like a chuckle of just like, oh, he's a zombie. But it's not that funny. It's kind of just weird.
Yeah, especially in the context of this scene, where it's quite, I won't say heavy, it's definitely loaded, this scene.
Yes.
Because I said my buddy's not watched this, and it's the first episode he's seen, and he picked up everything about it. He picked up that his dad's clearly an alcoholic, his dad's clearly like an abusive father, that the younger son was beaten up more by his dad than the older kid was, and the older kid like is clearly protective. Like, he picked all that up from the scene, and that does not jive with the let's take a very obvious shot because of the way it was framed of there being like the I want to say godfather, father of grandfather of like the zombie movie. Like, it's there in the background. Like, you don't need this, you don't need those close zoom-up shots and those things. Like, please don't do this. It's not appropriate here. Like, anything other on TV would have been better.
Yeah, I agree. It really adds nothing to the scene except for making it a little bit worse for like a lot of reasons.
Yeah, like, this was not what I thought.
Anyway. Yeah. So Mr. Kinkle's yelling at Tommy that he's not his son, and if he was, he'd hate himself. And Harvey's like, just leave him alone, Dad. And then Harvey, it continues on for a minute, his dad being abusive to Tommy. And then Harvey shoves him and tells him to go away, and then his dad shoves him, hits him.
Someone punch him.
And then goes to hit him again. And Tommy finally does something.
Yeah.
Which... he stands up and starts to choke his father.
Yep. I liked this because anything like that indicates there's something in there that he's only reacting to certain things, and he's reacting to the violence of the father and not the violence of the kid, because I'm pretty sure it's the kid who starts this fight. Because I'm pretty sure it's Harvey who pushes him. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Like, his dad was yelling. Yeah, but Harvey definitely shoved his dad. And then Tommy's like, leave him alone, and it kind of goes on for a minute. And then Sabrina comes up the steps as Mr. Kinkle is running out of the house, and he's like, don't go in there. He's not my son. He's a monster. And then she finds Harvey inside with Tommy sitting on the couch, and he's like, he won't stop. Like, Tommy keeps trying to like stand up. And she's like, what happened? And he tells her what happened. And then in the most heavy-handed line, she goes, maybe he's thirsty. Give him this.
Yeah.
And hands him a mason jar full of some sort of liquid.
Like, I think it's just clear liquid. I think it's just clear fluid.
Yeah, it's just clear.
That was terrible. Like, we need him to drink this potion. If she says the words, he's thirsty, drink the potion, he'll drink it. I'm like, oh boy, that was bad. that was not good. Yeah, no. Like, I don't even know how to go about fixing that, because no. It would say, yeah, heavy-handed, yeah.
It doesn't fit with the scene.
No.
Because Harvey's like, Tommy's trying to get up and Harvey's trying to restrain him. And then Sabrina comes in and it's like, maybe he's thirsty, even though like he clearly was trying to kill their dad. Like, it doesn't fit with the scene. It's not like once their dad is gone, he's just kind of like sitting down again.
Like, he's clearly not thirsty. Can I add that? Clearly not.
Very clearly not thirsty. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, he might be thirsty for fucking blood.
Maybe, but the clear water not gonna cut it, I'm afraid. So yeah, it was. God, guys, it was at this point I realised to myself, I think I might hate this show. I think there's a part of me that's like, I wish I hadn't suggested this, but also on the flip side, I'm glad I did, because wow.
Well, don't hate it yet. Oh my
Sorry.
God, I'm yawning now. Don't hate it yet, because we cut to Harvey and Sabrina outside, and Tommy's clearly gone to sleep. And Harvey's talking about how he knows something's wrong with Tommy, but he doesn't really want to admit it because he protected him from his dad, and he always protected him from his dad. And then Sabrina's like, everything's okay, because honestly, in this episode, we established that Sabrina's a terrible person. And then she says, but if Tommy tries to hurt you, you have to run away, Harvey. And she makes him promise. And then we go back to the mortuary where Sabrina comes in and calls for her aunts because she needs to talk to them. But they're there. And Ambrose is off to one side, and Hilda's sitting on the stairs, and Zelda is standing at the top of the stairs in the ultimate power position. And she's mad. Like, she comes down on Sabrina. Like,
she needs to be.
Yeah. And honestly, yes, come down on Sabrina. Sabrina, you fucked up so many times in this.
Yeah, like, she comes down hard on her. And it's like, you don't really have the power or the skill level to do this stuff. You don't understand what you're messing with. You're messing with the balance of life and death. And the reason all this shit is going wrong is because you mess with the balance. And no matter what you do, and I think at some point I mentioned this, like, all magic comes with a cost. And Sabrina wasn't willing to pay that cost properly. She tried to skirt around it. It's like handing off like counterfeit notes. Someone's going to bust your ass for that shit. And they are. They're being fucked for it.
Yep. Which, I hate the scene for a number of reasons. One of them is that while Zelda is yelling and angry, and righteously so, against Sabrina, Sabrina throws Wardwell under the bus. Like, such a shitty teenager thing of just being, well, it wasn't my fault. Somebody else gave me the idea. And it's like, yeah, it's like, that's... And then she tells him that, like, no, I just have to get his soul back from Limbo, and it's fine. And her aunts are like, no, that's a dumb plan, Sabrina. You cannot do that. And Sabrina drops the line about she cares about what's right and wrong, and clearly no one else does. And it's like, no, Sabrina, you don't care about what's right or wrong. You care about what you want, and only what you want. Which Zelda tells her this. Because Sabrina yells, like, you're not my mother and you need to stop pretending to be. And Hilda, for the first time in the series, gets between Sabrina and Zelda in a fight, and she's like, you don't talk to your aunt that way.
I was so happy to see that. I'm like,
and
this is her line. Her line is respect. That's her line. Like, don't do that. I'm sad that they didn't give enough time for that to impact, and that it wasn't given with the correct amount of lines or time. Like, oh, that could have been a real good turning point, but they don't use it. Like, that moment was, I think, could have been super good, but it was super wasted. I was very unhappy.
I agree. Like, there's this whole thing about how, it's obviously, this is Zelda's or Hilda's line of like, you don't disrespect your aunt. Like, they took her in, they cared for her, and all their fights before have been mutual ground headbutting, basically. Sabrina's never stooped low enough to be like, well, you're not my, to disrespect either her aunts. But this time she does. And then Zelda gives her the line of just, she's like, oh no, it's fine, Hilda. And she gives her the line of, magic comes with a cost. Everything has a price. Your father learned it too late. I learned it too late. And now it's your turn. No one's going to help you. And don't come crawling to me when it all blows up in your face. And then she fucking leaves.
leaves, as she should. As does Aunt Hilda, as does Ambrose. He's like, no one here is going to help you. That little bit there, whoever plays Auntie, respect, nice. And hints at a much deeper past for Aunt Hilda. I want to see this so much more.
I want to see so much more about Ambrose and Zelda and Hilda and the Weird Sisters and Susie and Roz, and I don't care about Sabrina at all.
No, like, I could use more, like, Kingle time. I could use more of those brothers, because holy shit, their story about being from a family of witch hunters who don't quite believe in witches anymore, and maybe things aren't, like, oh my god, we basically have that in Supernatural, and I'm so excited. Like, there's a thing there that they could do here, which is slightly different. They have Roz's story. Again, something very cool, like The Cunning. Oh my god, that could just be a series on its own. Yeah. But they don't.
Nope. So Sabrina runs to Wardwell, then tells her her stupid plan, and Wardwell's like, yeah, that's fine. But then we get to literally the most important scene in this whole episode. Because Hilda goes up to find Zelda, and she knocks on the door and comes in to, like, talk to her sister, and she finds Zelda flagellating herself.
Yeah, and she's like, nope. No.
Yeah, she's like, none of that. Stop it. And she asks why, and Zelda tells Hilda that she was wrong all those years ago. Which obviously is a big thing, because Zelda has never at any point ever hinted that she was wrong in any way. She tells Hilda that she was wrong, and I like this, because what she says here is that we shouldn't have taken in Sabrina, which means that Hilda, the nice, caring, supportive, sweet aunt, didn't want to take this half-mortal child in. And Zelda, the cold, cruel, very much the stern parent figure, wanted to take Sabrina in because she looked so much like Edward, and she could never say no to Sabrina. And then we get my third favorite line in this whole thing, where Hilda grabs her face and says, Zelda, you always say no to Sabrina. And then they both cry, and it's like, it's such a good moment.
It's again another one of those very cool side character development moments, and I was very happy to see it. And again, their relationship as sisters isn't perfect, but it feels like a relationship between sisters. Like, they're not the same, they're different, but they still have that bond they're never going to break. And to me, like, this scene was beautiful and perfect, the same way that most of the scenes between the Kinkle brothers is, like, really beautiful and really, like, just nice scenes. This was a nice scene. I liked it. Why can't they take whoever wrote that? I put it in the rest of the series, because... Or, if it's the same person, please put your skills like that on the rest of the episode. Please. Because you clearly can do it.
Yeah, give us that everywhere. But we fade to black, and we fade back up to Blackwood telling the Weird Sisters that they have to go kill Tommy because the Spellmans are...
Fuck-ups.
Yeah, they're gonna keep fucking it up, so you have to go kill Tommy because it's very important.
Of course.
You do it, and he has to die. And then, of course, Nick overhears them. So when they run off to do it, he runs off to follow them. And they're walking across the Kinkle lawn, leaving black footprints on the grass for reasons I cannot understand. Plot. And then you hear this tink, tink, tink noise, and both of them start to scream because their feet are bleeding horribly. And they turn around and look.
Super gross.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Honestly, probably my favorite use of magic in this show so far. Because Nick's just like, oh, it's an old binding spell. You drive a spike through a witch's footstep, and she's held in spot until you remove the spike. And it's like, oh, that's a cool bit of magic. You don't need to explain anything. It's just like...
practical.
Okay, we got it.
Boom. Nice. And he goes on to say, yeah, we need to let the Spellmans do this. You're not interfering.
And by the way, I want to point out, this is like 33 minutes into the episode. The Weird Sisters are not mentioned again until we see them for 2 seconds at the end of this episode.
Right at the end.
Despite the fact being very heavily involved, none of them, not even Agatha, are touched on again for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I guess dealing with a slightly more important thing.
So we go to the woods, where Wardwell ties a bit of red yarn around Sabrina's wrist and tells her, when you come back, tug on this string, I'll open the gate, from this side, gives her some vague warnings about being fast and how she doesn't belong there, and then Sabrina walks into limbo.
Okay, all right. We have a nice piece of Latin here, which I dutifully translated. Sorry, correction.
Oh, did you find your Latin translation?
Yeah. It is, yeah. Google does. Okay, I had it on my phone, and then I looked at Discord, and everything changed. Ready ad perculum tuum translates as back at your peril. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So Sabrina,
kind of cool.
Not the worst thing they've done in Latin. So Sabrina goes into limbo and walks around in the fog with a bunch of other people. And then there's the shape ahead of her that resolves into a woman. And it's Sabrina's mother.
Yeah. And
they have this short, but honestly really interesting conversation that hints at something way, way deeper. Because Sabrina's like, it's me, Sabrina. And she's like, no. Sabrina was baptized, and unbaptized babies are the only ones that go here. Sabrina would have gone to heaven. And then she's like, and also they took my baby. The witches are coming. And that's kind of all we get.
Yeah.
But it makes me think back to a couple episodes ago when they had a fucking truth cake hanging around and no one asked anything about her parents, Sabrina.
Yeah, Sabrina. Yeah, I like how this hinted at something and they didn't overplay their hand with this, because they very much could have turned this away from the point of the episode. This was here's a nice little lore jump. Oh, and the monster? Yeah, convenient at this point, because now they turn up and your mum tells you to get the fuck out.
Yep.
But of course she sees Tommy at just the right moment. She grabs him and says, let's book it. I'll explain later. Probably now's not the time. In much fancier way, with a lot more screaming, and they run away from this thing, and we take wide shots of mist and all this good stuff, and there's yelling and screaming, and would you thunk it, the red thread gets cut.
Yep.
So is it cut or is it eaten, or did Wardwell just go, fuck this?
That's a good question. We don't know, and apparently Sabrina doesn't think to ask. It's apparently not worth asking about.
That was legitimately when that, where should we get there? So hold the red thread in your mind for just a moment. So the red thread gets cut and Sabrina's cut off from the mortal world. And she panics. And like every good panic rhyming bard, she comes out with this wonderful rhyme about portals and brave mortals. And I'm like, the inner shitty bard that I have was very impressed. Because, she has this power that she was told she wouldn't have in Limbo, and she summons the portal back to the mortal world. Either that or Wardwell went, oh shit, the thread's broken. Guess I better open the portal.
It's one or the other. Actually, and she runs through, and as she gets through, all she's holding is Tommy's arm, which then kind of fades away. It's a really neat effect.
Yeah, it's like a weird smoke thing. I mean,
it's like it evaporates from one end down to the hand, like from the elbow down to the hand. And Sabrina's like, I just have to go back in. I can find him again. And Wardwell's like, oh no, he was definitely eaten by the Soul Eater. And here's a couple of things about this scene that kind of irked me. One, everyone knows the Soul Eater's there. But none of the spirits that are there that Sabrina sees during her mad dash back to the portal are running. They're all still walking.
None of them, yeah.
They're just like, So the second thing that irks me is the Soul Eater sounds really big. It has heavy footsteps. There's breathing you can hear. And then when they run through the portal, there's this really wide shot of them running through the fog. And there's nothing around them. So where the fuck did the Soul Eater come to eat Tommy?
I think they deliberately did we're not going to show you the monster.
No, they didn't have to show it. They could have just had a shape in the fog, like a big shape in the fog.
They could have made just a dark blob.
Something that would have been like, oh no, there's the Soul Eater. That's definitely going to and then when he comes through and then he is gone, you're like, oh, he's got him by the Soul Eater.
But no, it just...
This thing sounded huge. Where the fuck was it?
It just does this thing where it goes darker as they hit the portal, you would assume. And then we see the portal from the mortal side and we just hear lots of loud chewing and shouty, screaming sounds. And they come through and then bam, it's just his arm. Yeah. Okay. So, smoke effect. Cool. Did like it. It was very reminiscent of Silent Hill in there, but bad. Just bad. I don't really know how to explain it. It was just bad. Yeah. Anyway, so she goes there and Wardwell for the first time is like, no, you're not going back. And she's like, why? Is like, the Soul Eater ate him. You're not going back. What does the Soul Eater do? I think it says it on the tin.
What do you mean? This is one of those cases where it wasn't named cleverly. It was named just like what it was.
It was a descriptor of what it does. And Sabrina leaves. And then we have dodgy writing.
Actually, because Sabrina doesn't leave just yet. Because she's like, what do I do now? And Wardwell's like, well, there's really only one thing left for you to do. And let's go tell Tommy. Harvey. Fuck. Let's go tell Harvey. And she's like, but what if he doesn't like me? And she's like, well, you know.
My best line. If your love is true, you'll be okay.
Yep. So now we get our dodgy writing. Because now we cut to Roz and Susie in the bookstore.
Oh.
Well, there's also a scene where she talks to her, where Wardwell talks to her familiar, which I'm kind of skipping over because it's literally just it's an exposition scene. Would you like to, is that what you want to talk about? The exposition here?
I was unhappy. This was bad writing of like, oh, we need her to hammer home to the audience exactly what just happened. Oh, this bad thing happened and that works into the Dark Lord's plans. Like, that was super unneeded. We did not need that scene at all. It's like, we are audience, we're not dumb. Please don't treat us like we are. It's so frustrating. And then, yes, we go to the bookstore where Roz and Susie are having a chat about stuff.
Yes, and Roz tells Susie that, you remember how we went and saw my Nana and she told me about this thing that I might have magic powers because witches exist? Well, I think it's real, and I think Sabrina's a witch. And then Susie's like, I think all the Spellmans are witches because my aunt Dorothea wrote about them in her journals. And then there's a little conversation of, what does it mean to be a witch? Is Sabrina evil? Is she bad? Do we need to worry about her? Is she going to kill us? And it kind of ends on a,
Yeah. It's uh-oh, and then we pan backwards and oh my god, Wardwell sitting there sipping on a milkshake.
Which, this is a personal pet peeve, not against Sabrina, not against any one thing individually, but it always irks me when people have drinks in shows and it's clearly a full drink, but when they drink through a straw, it does that slurping noise.
Slip, yeah.
I hate it. Because if your straw is making that noise and your drink is full, you have a broken straw. And how does everyone react when that happens? That.
Get a new straw.
Everyone who's ever had a broken straw immediately grabs the straw out, makes the same exact face, and throws it away. And gets a new one. And it's just a personal pet peeve. Like, I know it's a thing because people established in movies that things need to make sounds. Yeah. But certain things don't, because certain things just don't make sound.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a personal pet peeve. Pisses me off to no end. Always see it. I hate it so much. So, now we go to Sabrina at Harvey's place. And she tells him, Harvey, I'm a witch. And I did some witchy things, and I brought your brother back to life. And it was a really bad plan, and he's not...
Actually, funny enough, like, my buddy watching it with him was like, she never once said sorry, or never once said that she fucked up.
That's true, she didn't. It was definitely never
once.
Continuation of Sabrina not taking responsibilities for her own fuck up.
Yeah. And Harvey's reaction is, as you would expect, we've had this conversation before, and she's like, yeah, I made you forget, and he had like a why? And then he's like, I need you to not be here.
Yeah. She tells him that she's gonna have to kill Tommy. And he says, no, I'm going to do it because I don't want you to have to kill any part of Tommy. And I need you to go away. And Sabrina says, no, I want to help. I want to be here. And he's like, no, you have to go. Which, there's a lot more to that scene. Honestly, it's one of the better scenes in the show. It's acted out really well, but it kind of comes down to, oh, wow, you've been lying to me this whole time. You made something really, really bad happen. And now you made it where I'm going to have to kill my brother again? Thanks.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna need some time to process this. And she's like, I don't want to give you that time. And he's like, seriously, you're gonna have to leave. I cannot deal with this too. Like,
You got
he has to go kill his brother. Yeah, you need to leave. And do you know why this scene was so good, Drew? We got to see the guy who plays Harvey. We got to see his face when he emoted.
This is true. It was so deserved and worth it.
Yes.
So, Harvey goes and gets a gun. And as Sabrina's walking away from the house, she hears a gunshot.
Yeah.
And she's crying. And then she walks past the Weird Sisters, who finally, for the next, finally after 20-something minutes, are like there. And Prudence is like, is it done? And then it cuts away from there, and Sabrina is coming up the lane towards her house, and there's a storm coming in because the wind is like blowing her hair and everything. And Zelda's standing on the porch in her classic Zelda pose, which is arms crossed and very angry. Actually, not angry, just disapproving. She always has kind of a look of like, I know you did something, and I'm disappointed about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this my default. I mean, to be fair, her family at this moment, yeah.
It's kind of hard to say. But Sabrina stumbles up and collapses on the stairs and says that it's done. Tommy's taken care of. And she starts to cry. And Zelda rushes to her and holds her niece as she has a breakdown. And that's where it fades out.
That's the end of the episode, I think, right?
It is. A lot of good things about the show. This episode, honestly, we definitely kind of tore it apart. But honestly, there's a lot of good stuff in this episode that happens around Sabrina.
Yes.
She is not good in this episode.
No.
Not acting wise or anything. Just like her motivations are so muddled because it's not even like, well, I love Harvey that I would do anything, because it's like, you are making it worse.
Yeah.
This is even somebody who's blinded by love, which again, this entire season, she's been really on off about whether or not she loves Harvey or not, because she never actually says like, I love Harvey at all. So being like so kind of like on off, and then just being like, I have to do this, like, feels a little weird.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that 16-year-old mentality of like, oh, I fucked up. I'm going to fix it before anyone finds out. It's going to be fine. I've got this. I'm going to fix it. Everything's so good. And then realizing she can't. And there was a part of me throughout this entire episode was like, I hope she doesn't get his soul back. I hope that's going to be such a way more interesting story. And she didn't. And I was super happy because we had that wonderful scene between her and Harvey. And that was a good scene. That was a well-acted scene. There was a lot of information dumped in there about relationships and the whole idea of like her lying to him throughout time. The fact that she's done all this shit and made his life terrible. And all he's asking for is some time to deal with it. And that was some good acting in that scene. Not great on Sabrina's side, not gonna lie. But again, Harvey, my fucking god. Super good. And that was good. And that very last scene with her and Zelda on the porch, that was that perfect, I'm super angry and pissed at you. And you could be super and angry, pissed at your kid, your child, your daughter. And then they come in and break down. You aren't going to do anything other than give them a hug. Like, there's nothing else you're going to do. I'm like, I love the fact that in this episode, Sabrina basically says, you're not my mother. And she needed it to be Aunt Zelda that she cries to. Like, Hilda wouldn't have been the same, because you would expect that like love and care. You would expect that Ambrose to be like, I know, awkward, but being there. Aunt Zelda is the person she wants that respect and care and understanding from, because she's the strong character in their family. And it was great to see that, and I love those two scenes. And like basically the last 10 minutes of this episode they were okay. They were good. They were good moments.
Yeah. Well, I have an important question, and that's, how would you rate this episode?
Mixed. I'm gonna say 2.5, because the last 10 minutes were real good. They were super good. I really like them. The rest of the episode reminded me how much I think I hate Sabrina. And it's kind of tinged how I see the whole series.
Fair. I'm gonna go with a 3.5.
Oh.
And I say that because, thinking about it objectively, I don't care about Sabrina. She has, from the beginning, been such a problem for herself and everybody else. Like, literally just a constant problem and thorn in everyone's side. And it's not like a standard YA thing of how she literally is smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
And, like, she's going to solve it. No, she just makes stupid choices the whole time. There are good things about her in the beginning where she stands up for her friends and she does all this stuff. But she frequently just makes the obvious, glaring, wrong choice.
Yeah.
But, that being said, I'm giving it 3.5 because this episode hints at so much cool story that we don't get.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing about how Hilda was the one who didn't want to take Sabrina in. The whole thing about how, you know, how did Edward find out about the cost of things? How did Zelda find that out? You know, like all this other lore and stuff, this cool lore, in fact, and not just the, you know, it's the Lord's Prayer, but we put Satan in there.
Yeah.
Like actual cool stuff in the world that we don't get.
They have some good things going. It's just not about the main character. Like if they turn this into like an ensemble piece rather than this is the main character, this show would be effing great, because rather than having those shitty filler episodes that we felt were there, let's have an episode actually about Ambrose, actually about what the fuck it is that Father Blackwood is actually going to be doing with a Spellman under his thumb. What it actually is about, like Zelda and Hilda, because those amazing moments we had, like especially in like the Dream episode, where we learned so much about Zelda and her motivations and who she is as a person. If that episode had been about her, it would have been super good. Like that could have been baller, but they don't, and it's not.
There's a weird thing about this, and the only way I can think of to describe it is that the main character, unfortunately, tarnishes every scene she's in. It's not due to acting.
No,
it's not due to any fault of the actress or anything about that. Her character's just written in such a way that every time she shows up, you know she's gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
And she's going to make everyone else's lives worse. Yeah. Now, granted, I will also say, maybe I just don't get it. You know, maybe I just don't understand.
We're not 16-year-old girls. And I'm going to add the caveat, 60-year-old girls anymore. I can't get into that mindset. Maybe we're just getting old, Drew.
Maybe they're writing about something that I don't have enough, like, experience or understanding to really, like, click into.
Yeah.
But Sabrina, the main character, I don't care about what happens to her, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's the plan. Maybe the first season is so I don't care about Sabrina. But the problem with that is, you should make the first season making me care about her, so that when you then make me not care about her because she's a bad person, there's an actual like, oh no, I see this fall from grace. And not just start off with, all right.
She's it. Like, the cynical part of me is like, they rushed series 2 out for a reason. Either because like Netflix is like losing all of the Marvel stuff and a bunch of other shit going on, or the fact they had season 2 already mostly filmed and went, oh, the end of series 1.
I'm interested to see what happens, and I hope series 2 actually gives us more interesting lore and makes me want to give a fuck about Sabrina in some way.
Yeah.
Because I just don't. Everyone else is so much cooler than Sabrina, and that's a really unfortunate thing, because honestly, your main character should either be the worst person in the world, sort of like Breaking Bad, where, you know, Walt is like, he's literally a bad person. That's the whole thing. It's like, he's a terrible person.
We watch his descent.
But Sabrina, but Sabrina's not a terrible person. She's just kind of like, she's there as the cosmic joke of just like, she comes bumbling in and just like sets off a chain of events that fucks everyone else up.
Yeah, like she's the ultimate snowflake character. Like, I am a half this, so I can do both of these things. I'm really clever because I did this. I have all this magic. I have all this. Yeah, I. And it's like that a lot. Like, even when she's doing things for Harvey, she's not doing them for Harvey if she actually sat and thought about it properly. And it's like, oh no, why?
And it's unfortunate. But 3.5 is where I'm going. You went with a 2.5?
2.5. I'm dead in the center on this episode. I can't, there were super good points about this, and the rest of it is garbage. It's trash fire garbage. I just wish that they had not, if they had gone episode 1, episode 2, episode 7, 8, 9, this would have been a better series overall. And the thing that really annoys me is they clearly have good writers on staff, because there are some stellar moments.
Oh, they do!
Unbelievably stellar phrases and sentences said, but the rest of it is suspect.
Yes, because there's clear moments where Sabrina tells Zelda, you're not my mom. And then at the end, Zelda's the one that comforts her. Like you said, anyone else, it wouldn't have been such an impactful moment. So clearly there's a writer out there on this team who went, no, it has to be Zelda.
There's no other choice.
It has to be that moment of just you said some shit you definitely shouldn't have said, but I'm still here for you.
Yeah, I'm still your mum, because that's how mums love, unconditionally, and it's a beautiful moment. And I'm hoping that kicks off a change in episode 10. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I will find out next week.
You will find out. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say, episode 10, buckle up, everyone. It's probably going to be a long one. Sabrina has, as a whole, run about an hour and a half for every episode. We're going to have a lot to talk about with episode 10. So, that's the thing. Anyway, I think that's all, because I'm out of stuff to say, basically.
I am... might be looking forward to episode 10. I don't really know. I say it's tentative.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out. If you want to do your bits, we will end tonight.
So I'm still Volonda, and you can find me on Twitter at volley_Londa. Or you can find me on the podcast The Lucky Die.
I'm Drew Tillman from Taking Initiative, and you can find me on Twitter at cyber_Sasquatch. And that's our show. Join us again next Friday for a new episode on iTunes, or come watch us record live on Twitch at twitch.tv/couch for it.